You know the name Louis Vuitton, the fancy bags, crazy price tags, and rich people showing them off on Instagram. But what if I told you this entire empire began with a 13-year-old runaway who had no money and walked 292 miles just to survive? Let's rewind the clock and find out how Louis Vuitton became a legend. About 200 years ago, there was a village in France called Anache. A man named Xavier Vuitton lived in this village, and Louis Vuitton was born on August 4, 1821. Louis' father was a poor farmer, and his mother, Corinne, made and sold hats to support the family. Due to their poor financial conditions, Louis had to leave his studies and assist his father in the field. In 1831, when Louis was around 10 years old, his mother passed away. After her death, Louis' father remarried, but his stepmother mistreated him. Even his father didn't intervene to stop this. Louis endured this mistreatment for 3 years, but when food became scarce and conditions worsened, he decided to leave. In 1835, at the age of 13, Louis ran away from home at night without informing anyone and set out for Paris. He had heard about opportunities in Paris and believed it was a place where he could find work. So he decided to leave Anarchy for Paris on his own without telling anyone else. However, the distance from Anache to Paris was 292 miles, and Louis had no money, no resources for the journey. So he walked the entire way. On his journey, Louis stopped in villages to do small jobs in exchange for food. When there was no place to stay, he slept in forest and sometimes he went hungry. This arduous journey lasted 2 years. Louis worked and traveled continuously until he finally reached Paris in 1837. After arriving in Paris, Louis' main goal was to secure food, and fortunately the railway services in Paris had just started, leading to an increase in travel and grooming demand for luggage boxes. A craftsman named Monsieur Marchal, who specialized in making such boxes, was looking for a helper. Louis approached him for work and was hired. For 16 years, Louis worked under Marchal, perfecting his skills. His craftsmanship became so renowned that customers began specifically requesting trunks made by him, which made him famous among customers. In 1852, a major event changed Louis' life. Empress Eugenie, wife of Emperor Napoleon III, admired his work so much that she appointed him as her personal box maker. At the time, arranging and managing luggage was considered a prestigious job, and this elevated Louis' status significantly. Louis transitioned from being an ordinary box maker to serving elite and royal clients. His clientele belonged to high society and interacted with him directly. On April 22, 1854, Louis married. Shortly after, he found a place on Rue des Capucines, where he opened his own shop and bought a house in the mezzanine flat of the same building. This was a remarkable achievement for someone who had once been homeless. However, even Louis Vuitton himself could not have foreseen what lay ahead. Although Louis initially made the trunks himself, after opening his shop, he relied on suppliers for production. This led to a decline in quality, resulting in numerous complaints. Determined to maintain high standards, in 1858, Louis relocated to Rio Rocher in 1876. He began personally overseeing trunk production. Louis had a habit of paying very close attention to the smallest details. This trait allowed him to identify a significant issue with the travel boxes used in Paris. His observation led him to revolutionize the concept of travel luggage. Before the arrival of trains in Paris, horse carriages were the primary mode of travel, and they had dedicated space for luggage boxes. These boxes typically featured dome-shaped lids to prevent water from pooling during rain. However, they were also heavy and cumbersome. With the advent of train travel, people began using the same dome-shaped boxes. Unfortunately, these trunks were impractical for trains because their shape took too much space and their weight made them difficult to handle. Louis Vuitton recognized this problem and introduced a solution: the flat top rectangular trunk, also known as the streamer trunk. Unlike the traditional trunks made from the pigskin, which often cracked, Louis used a durable lightweight fabric called Trion canvas. This fabric made the trunks both sturdier and more aesthetically appealing. The rectangular shape allowed the trunks to be stacked, optimizing space and improving convenience. At the time, wealthy individuals traveled frequently and they quickly grew fond of Louis Vuitton's flat-top trunks. These trunks with their clean modern design became highly popular among the elite class in a short period. But he didn't stop there. Louis noticed the rich struggled to pack everything in one messy box, so he designed trunks with compartments, a place for everything. And for women, he made the first stylish lightweight handbag out of canvas. Suddenly, women's bag became a trend. He wasn't just making luggage, he was solving the problem the rich didn't even know they had. In 1876, Louis won a bronze medal at the World's Fair. 2 years later, the Suez Canal opened and the global travel exploded. Kings and royals from Egypt, India, and beyond ordered his custom trunks. Some ordered dozens to hold everything from clothes to swords to cigars. Then came war. The Franco-Persian War in 1870 ruined everything. Louis' shop was looted, tools stolen, business gone. But Louis didn't give up. After the war, property was cheap, so he bought a new shop in Paris near the railway and grand hotels. Business boomed again. Louis' son George joined the business and had an idea. Let's make our trunks theft proof. They created the tumbler lock with pins that only matched one key. It was so good, George challenged Houdini, the famous escape artist, to break it. But Houdini said no. In 1892, Louis Vuitton passed away, but his son George pushed the brand even further. In 1893, LV came to America, and even JP Morgan became a client. Then George created the iconic LV monogram canvas, the famous L and V, with floral Japanese inspired pattern, a smart move to fight counterfeits. After George, Gaston Vuitton took over, but during World War II, LV worked with Nazi collaborators while other businesses shut down. It's still a dark spot in the brand's history. After the war, LV rebounded and kept making luxury trunks, boxes, and custom items for the rich. When Gaston died, the family struggled to manage LV. So in came Henry Kramer, the man who turned LV from a family business into a global brand. He cut out middlemen and opened exclusive LV stores. In just 6 years, profits shot up from 10 million to over 250 million euros. LV merged with Moet Hennessy to protect against hostile takeovers, but then chaos. Bernard Arnault, a businessman known for taking over companies, quietly bought enough shares to take full control of LVMH. On January 13, 1989, he became chairman. The Vuitton family out of business. Under Arnault, LVMH became a monster. He bought 75 plus luxury brands like Dior, Fendi, Tiffany, and Bulgari. He tried to take over Gucci and Hermes too, but those didn't go as planned. He placed LV stores in the world's most expensive locations. Some pay $50 million a year in rent. But LV hasn't escaped criticism. They have been accused of using exotic animal skins, cheap labor in Romania, and misleading made in France tags. PETA even bought LV shares just to protest at meetings. Despite everything, wars, lawsuits, and scandals, Louis Vuitton is still one of the biggest brands in the world. In 2023, it was worth more than $124 billion. And it all started with a boy who had nothing, no money, no connections, just a dream. So the next time when you see the famous Louis Vuitton bag, behind the logo is a story of hunger, hustle, heartbreak, and history. Because greatness doesn't always wear a crown. Sometimes it walks 292 miles with a dream. I hope you liked the story of Louis Vuitton, and for such more stories you can subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.